In 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the US dollar as the cornerstone of the global financial system. Nearly 80 years later, BRICS is leading a movement to dethrone it, sending shockwaves through Washington. In response, Donald Trump has threatened a 100% tariff on BRICS nations that abandon the dollar, hoping to maintain America's financial dominance. But instead of backing down, BRICS is doubling down. This is no mere trade dispute, it's an all-out struggle for financial independence that could reshape the global economy forever. Will BRICS succeed in its rebellion against the dollar, or will Trump's threats force them into submission? At the heart of this financial battle is BRICS' push to conduct trade in local currencies rather than the US dollar. In 2025, under Brazil's chairmanship, the alliance reaffirmed its commitment to financial independence, advocating for economic reforms that would reduce reliance on Western financial institutions. A major pillar of this strategy is the BRICS-led New Development Bank, NDB, which has been funding projects in local currencies to bypass the dollar altogether. Brazil's leadership is particularly noteworthy, with President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva being one of the strongest voices against dollar dependency. He has long argued that developing nations should control their own financial policies instead of being subject to Washington's decisions. Other BRICS members are already making moves. China and Russia are settling trade in yuan and rubles, while India and the UAE have brokered oil deals in rupees. This shift isn't just about trade, it's about shielding BRICS nations from US sanctions. For decades, Washington has leveraged its control over the global financial system to impose economic restrictions on nations that challenge its policies. Russia has faced severe sanctions, and China has been targeted in trade disputes. By moving away from the dollar, BRICS nations aim to insulate themselves from such financial weaponization. Donald Trump sees BRICS de-dollarization efforts as a direct attack on US financial supremacy. His proposed 100% tariff on BRICS nations is a high-stakes attempt to force them to remain tied to the dollar. Trump has repeatedly warned that losing control over global finance would be equivalent to losing a war. The US economy benefits significantly from the dollar's global dominance. Countries using the dollar for trade create constant demand for US Treasury bonds, which helps keep American interest rates low and supports economic stability. If BRICS succeeds, demand for the dollar will decline, potentially weakening its value and limiting Washington's ability to fund its deficits through international borrowing. But BRICS leaders are not backing down. While the US remains a key trading partner, it is no longer the only major player. China, in particular, has emerged as an alternative economic powerhouse, offering BRICS nations trade opportunities that bypass the US financial system. The key question is whether BRICS will continue its de-dollarization push despite Trump's threats. If successful, this movement could fundamentally alter global finance, diminishing Washington's economic leverage. More countries may begin turning to alternative financial systems, gradually eroding US influence. This shift wouldn't happen overnight, but its long-term impact could be profound. If Trump follows through on his 100% tariff threat, a trade war could erupt, straining economic ties between the US and BRICS nations. While some BRICS members, like Brazil and India, have strong economic relationships with the US, they also recognize the risks of over-reliance on Washington. A trade war could push BRICS nations to strengthen intra-alliance trade and deepen partnerships with emerging markets. Alternatively, BRICS may adopt a gradual approach, continuing to shift trade agreements away from the dollar while avoiding direct confrontation. This strategy would allow them to achieve financial independence over time without provoking an aggressive US response. However, given BRICS' firm stance in its 2025 statement, a full retreat seems unlikely. Trump's threats rest on the outdated assumption that the US still dictates global financial rules. The world has changed. Today, economies are more interconnected than ever, and financial power is shifting toward emerging markets. His approach contradicts principles of free markets and national sovereignty. BRICS nations aren't violating international law, They are simply choosing to trade in their own currencies. If the US truly champions an open global economy, why should it dictate how other nations conduct their trade? Another flaw in Trump's logic is that de-dollarization is not an attack on the US. It is an economic strategy to secure financial stability. The global economy has long been vulnerable to US monetary policy, with developing nations suffering from the Federal Reserve's decisions. When US interest rates rise, capital outflows and currency depreciation hit emerging economies hard. By reducing their dependence on the dollar, BRICS nations are merely protecting themselves, as any responsible economic bloc would. Furthermore, if the US can print trillions of dollars at will, while expecting other nations to rely on the dollar, despite its declining value, isn't that economic coercion? Trump's threats expose a double standard. America wants financial freedom for itself while denying it to others. If the US can prioritize its economic interests, why shouldn't BRICS? Trump's tariff threats also contradict capitalism's core principle: competition. If the US dollar is truly the strongest currency, it shouldn't need government-backed threats to maintain its dominance. If BRICS nations find better trade options using local currencies, they should be free to explore them. That's how a truly competitive global economy should work. The era of a unipolar financial system is fading. The rise of China, the economic strength of BRICS, and the diversification of global trade indicate a shift toward a multipolar world. Trump's threats ignore this reality, treating the global economy as though it still revolves around US supremacy. But times are changing, and BRICS is proving that financial independence is not defiance, it is evolution. Should Trump impose harsh tariffs simply because BRICS is making independent financial choices? The short answer: no. Sovereign nations should not be bullied into economic submission. The world no longer belongs solely to Washington. The sooner the US acknowledges this shift, the better it can adapt to the new financial landscape. Before, it finds itself fighting a losing battle against the future. BRICS has made its position clear. De-dollarization is moving forward regardless of opposition. Trump, in turn, has issued his strongest warnings yet. This economic standoff is shaping up to be one of the most significant financial battles in modern history. If BRICS succeeds, it will mark the dawn of a new era in global trade, where the US dollar is no longer the default currency. If Trump's threats prove effective, BRICS may have to reconsider its strategy. Either way, the battle for financial supremacy has begun, and the world is watching.